So at this point, Book 4 kind of comes to an end, but there are still things left. One of them is that I asked why in the world would after the books 1, 2, and 3 were done, they pretty much covered the things that you needed to know about life. I asked them why we had to do Book 4. I mean, so much detail and so much suggestion, and I mean, like if you read Book 1, 2, and 3, you'd get to the point where you'd say, "Who cares what's going on here?" But they said, "No, you have to understand that those who don't know what's going on need some proof that we do understand what's going on in their world, and with that understanding, they might better believe what it is that we have to say." And that we have done our work in the arena of life and gone on. We are up the path, planting guideposts and signs for those who come. What did they say? They said, "We're up the mountain." You got a long way to go. We're up higher on the mountain, putting signposts up and getting things organized so that you can see what to expect as you're coming up to the mountain. Yeah, you'll understand that much more clearly as you read you've read that part. If you've read Book 1, 2, and 3, you begin to say, okay, I know exactly what they're talking about. And there's a second reason. They said, those who have refused the gift of faith that comes in the first cycle of the first grace cycle, as it was, they're going to have another 2,000 years to learn the truth. In the second of the grace cycles, man will again be given something as kind of a blessing. The first one was the ability to get out just on faith. The second cycle is the cycle of knowledge. And what they say is that knowledge is going to come to you in a logical left brain form, just the facts, please, in quotes, and that's the way it's going to come. So for those who can find their way through this mess with the logic, and maybe they'll get it, and they'll take the next gate out. And they say, or not, as they choose. If they choose not to, or enough of them choose not to come out, then the cries of the fallen one might prevail, and those left will get what it is they so demand. The gates are closed, and those who are here are where they choose to be. They say they are to give part of the understanding that you're going to need for this second cycle, which is the logical cycle of, okay, what's going on, what actually happened, what's going to happen, what do we need to do, and so on and so forth. And they say, failing the understanding of the games that are played, there'd be nothing left to do but to go the next 2,000 years. And what they were indicating is at the end of that next 2,000 years, if there are enough people seeing it and wanting to get out, the gates may be closed for good. Now, if you haven't read Book 1, 2, and 3, you don't know what the gates are, but you should read Book 1, 2, and 3 now. They also said Book 4 might come before Books 1, 2, and 3 because 4 is the foundation stable number, and they were doing number things. And they said each book has a number, each book's number has a significance. For Book 1, it was about the beginning, the point, the single expanding out into the universe. That was what Book 1 was all about. Book 2 was about two sides, the balance, seeing two faces of what seems to be one. And that's what, obviously, the number 2 does. Look at two sides. Look at the first number 1, single thing, just a dot. 2 might be looked at as a line, because there's 2 points and the line between them. Book 3 is called a gate number, just to confuse you. And they say it's often mistaken for 4 because it has a hidden aspect or gate for the entrance of some kind of phenomenon. Number 3 has a secret side or something not well seen or noticed. Look for the hidden in any number 3. they're talking about numbers, and they're giving you these secret little things about numbers. If Book 4 were the first read, the reader might want to know what brought these concepts into being. He or she might then have to go to the first books to see where it all came from. Of course, that's what you have to do. Then comes the curiosity as to why all these changes coming about 4,000 years ago, and who were the major players that caused the changes. What really happened in the past? How did we get here anyway? How could we make any sense out of the religious and historical books that passed, or even make sense out of what's happening now? At this point in my life, I don't know whether this will be given or not. It takes time, work, and independent income to accomplish the next book. That's book 5, you understand. Will that book ever be written? And what is said is tick, tick, tick. And John Bonner, will know that sound all too well. Tick, tick, tick. Yep, I do. Been doing this for, started at age 21, 73 now. Been doing this for a long time, put a lot of work into it, and a great deal of tick, tick, tick has come into my life. So I have the ability to wait. They say, next, let's throw in some final thoughts before we end this chapter. We discussed the idea of safe streets in chapter on law. That concept is even more critical in the school system. Now, these are concepts that they just didn't go. It seemed like they should have gone to the school thing or whatever, but they didn't go. They didn't get there on time, and they're here for you to think about. You've heard about the education system, and they say safe streets in the chapter on law. What about the school system? How is a child to learn the lessons of life or the lessons of school if he or she fears for his or her life all the time? How can a teacher teach? The school will be safe. Safe in the school, to the school, and from the school. Demand it so and make it so. These are concepts, I understand. Another concept we would pass on. We recommend free education with the student paying some of the cost by labor. Because education is free, each person has the same opportunity to access it. The do-good concept of equal stops here. What do we mean? If a person has free access to education for their entire life, they can only choose to not be educated, or they can choose to be very well educated. So if a person is hired by the specific abilities they have with no color, race, creed, or age, or anything else to enter into the hiring, then an education becomes one of the things that you have to bargain with, and that's what the business needs. They say, get an education and make yourself qualified to do the job that we want done. And what they say is, in other words, the business has a right to specify the requirements of any job. If a person can't meet those requirements, a business can't be expected to lower the requirements. There must be equal opportunity by qualification, but you must qualify. If not, tough. We can't make you what you aren't. Your experience is to be elsewhere. Your experience is to be elsewhere is underlined in red. What they say? They said if you can, each person has a set of abilities. If you have these fantastic abilities, you can go out and negotiate and get a really good wage. If you are just a person with not any super exceptional abilities, you can go to school and gather some. If you don't have the ability to go to school or whatever you got to do to get them, then tough. You're going to be a laborer, and that's where you should be. And they say your experience is to be elsewhere other than where you're demanding that you be. To carry that concept even further, we would suggest the invasion of the do-good equality, do-gooders demanding equality everywhere, into all aspects of our life is again a fool's mission. Karma demands boxes within boxes. The karmic education of man requires specific experiences for each type of person. You can't jam all the boxes into one big box and make all equal. Karma would dissolve and chaos would then reign supreme. We wonder who would again gain were that to be the thing that actually happens. Who or what gains when karma no longer works? Now, you know, it's been talked about over and over again. Who gains when karma doesn't work? Over and over again we say that the need here is choices. And you can see that if everything is equal, the choices are eliminated or reduced, and that's what always happens, and who gains? So they say it's a nice sounding thing, this equality, but truth dictates a different path. Get out of the equality business. Equal chances to qualify, absolutely. Reduce the qualifications, no. Enter into the private lives with your equality, no. And so you kind of see where they're going there. One other thing, they say we are strongly suggesting that all must go through the camp education system. Those who get in and can pass the testing become adults no matter their age. Those who haven't got to the puberty part of their life, no matter their age, must wait until the signs are there. Then the most important thing in our mind is that the rich must go to camp also. What did they say? They said, we say those rich must go to camp also. And they must pass the tests as the maturity thing, just like all the rest. What the common procedure is, no, we don't want I don't want my child to go to camp, and I've got the money, so I'm paying so we don't have to. No, they have to go to camp too. Why? If you think about it just a little, you'll see the wisdom in that need. The wealthy at some point must see what the normal people live like. What is the normality? What's normal? Well, they'll see it. They're living with normal people. They follow normal rules. They do exactly what normal people do, and they see what they go through. And that might be the only time in their lives that they're ever around normal people doing normal things. And then they go on. As with all these books, that there are things that just do not seem to belong anywhere. But still, they must be said. So now they're going to go into kind of things that, if you were human, you would say were on their mind and they couldn't find a place to put them. And they're numbered 1 through whatever, 1, 2. So the first one is understand that the government tells you to stay out of the criminal business because they will do it. In other words, you stay away, get out of the way, let us do it. And they say we'll do it much more professionally, and that all sounds good. Then they only do it halfway and do domination on you, or dominion on you, and then when they're all done, not all, they always say not all, but some of the not so good police officers kind of push people around because they see it as a place to do it that's legal. And so they say then they only halfway do the criminal thing, and they do dominion on you, and then they advertise that all is good. The police pay, or the government pays for advertising to tell you everything's good. Number 2, the government will take care of all your problems in law and other places, and they will do it much more professionally and cheaper, they say. They do not do it. They hide it, but they do hide it more professionally. And they hire game players who charge tremendous amount for hiding what it is that they don't do. And they say, so you understand that what we are saying? Do you understand? The government does not stop crime or solve other problems that they could as well as they could, but they can afford to advertise with your money, and all is good. They advertise all is good, and they're kind of pointing that out to you all the time. The government had insane asylums to hide the asylums themselves. That you might not be old enough to remember. Used to be a lot of insane asylums around. They hide the insanity problem behind closed doors, and they keep the insane medicated, and they, you don't have, I mean, what are they doing there? They're hiding the problem. You you can't go in and talk to these people because they're in an insane asylum. They're locked up, and there's no problem. Do you see a problem? I don't see a problem. And they advertise that all is good. And so they get to number 4 then, and they say there's a core concept in the above statements, and it's very well hidden. Can the government do better? Well, that question will be answered as the system changes, and you see what can be if you get into the system that they're talking about here in government and change those things. You're going to find out that, of course, they can do better and should have been able to do better all along. But they say, however, and this is one of those places where nothing fit, so they had to put it in here. However, there's an area that's been taken over by the government that severely restricts your choices. We have and will again and again show you that there's a planned effort to keep man from making choices. What did they say? They say over and over and over again that there is a planned effort to keep man from making choices. So what? So what? Okay. In Book 1, 2, and 3, they say that the reason you're here is to make choices. Yeah. Do you see anything there? The reason you come here is to find out what you're choosing, so you make choices. Over and over again, as they say, we have and will again and again show you that there's a planned effort to keep man from making choices. If you eliminate man's choices, the reason for man to be here no longer works, and man just stays here, which it so desperately wants, and you so desperately do not want. If you knew, what the end result of that was. What's the end result of not being able to make choices? You stay here. You get to be the sheep of it, and you'll know what that means when you go to Book 1, 2, and 3. It centers around the question of helping others. This problem now is centering around the question of helping others. There's a problem there, and they're going to get into it. The government has taken over the duty of helping those in need, with many branches of government doing the job. So what's wrong with that? And they say, well, why? Why do we have so many branches of government? Why not one unit that takes a person in need from the beginning to the end and sees to it that the job is completed? That unit could deal with the disabled common man or woman, the wounded military, the elderly, the children, and any other group of people that need help in their lives. That unit can be tested and watched to see if they are in fact doing the things that they're asked to do. And so, you got one unit there, and they say the way it is now, there are so many different units getting money from the government that there's no way to pin down who's responsible. Does that sound familiar? Okay, step 1, get it all combined into one unit. That unit will be responsible for all areas of help and will be responsible for that duty. There they are, one unit responsible for taking care of a person. And so now we have only one place to go and only one place to investigate. We have only the top of one place to find the problem and cut the heads off. I know, a little extreme, but it's a beast. And the beast has to do what we ask it to do. It has to carry the burden. It can't tell us where to go and tell us what to do. And they're pretty adamant about that. And pretty adamant about you understanding that. So, okay, that's solved. We go on to the other problem with that system. Oh, there's another problem. We said that if there was a sin, the top one would be not killing, not rape, not child molesting, and on and on. It would be the conning of those who would help. Taking the money from those people and doing nothing but filling your own pockets. What did they say? The biggest sin, if there was a sin, would be the conning, the taking of other people's money, telling them you're going to do wonderful things for the people, and then putting the money in your pocket. And those conning people, when found out, caused the helpers to throw up their hands in frustration and quit trying to help forever. Where do we What are we looking at here? We're looking at helpers, hundreds of millions of people who would help. They're no longer helping because there are people taking advantage of them, taking their money, taking their help, and doing no help but just filling their pockets. That is a sin of sins. If there was such a thing as sins, they say. You understand there's a killing, rape, child molesting, all the terrible things that can be done, and this is the worst? I kind of asked them about that, and they said, look, all these people have a choice. They can choose to help. Any of this conning, when found out, causes those helpers to just go home and watch TV. What do you suppose we're looking at here? We're looking at the elimination of choices. How many times are we going to say that? And I said, I understand the elimination of choices. That's why we're here. You get rid of that, then what? So then I also asked them why they said if there was such a thing as sin, and they said there is no sin as we know it. As we understand sin, there is no sin. But to use the word helps the reader get the idea in force. In other words, they're trying to impact you with the understanding that if there was ever a sin of any kind, it would be those people who take advantage of the people that want to help. Oh, wow, sinners. Now you wander around after this is understood, and after the government's changed and the people are looking at, these wonderful people that have money and they drive with their limousine down the park and they go to these parties. No, that isn't happening anymore. Well, why not? Because the people are booing them. You're nothing but a rotten sinner. Boy, you see the ability of the individual or the group to down those people is horrendous, but they don't know. You get rid of advertising, and all of a sudden they start to know, and you get the People's Trust News, and they're telling you, this person's driving this nice car because he's stolen your money. Oh, so he's a thief. And if he happens to be one that's conning the people that are trying to help, he's the worst thief of all. Okay, so now you begin to see what's going on. So now we get down to the other part of this that is wrong. We need to be able to help each of those people in need as a choice. Do you see where we're going? They changed direction a little bit now, and they're saying, we need to be able to help those people, not the government. We need to help. Do you see where they're going? Yeah, you can see where they're going now. We need a system that demands and allows just people to help others as needed before the end of the government system. Before somebody goes into the government system, there's another group of just people who are there to help. Why? Because it should be designed that way in order to allow people to make that choice. Choices, choices, choices. That is the need here, and that is what's been taken away from us by the government. What a surprise. Not. So let's see how we can do this. We need an organization that offers help to anyone in need. That organization will train anyone who wants to help so that there are no injuries caused by the lack of training. You get into trouble there if somebody had a broken arm or hurt themselves, broke their back or something, and you grab them and pull them out of the thing, and there's no danger of fire and there's no bleeding. You leave them, you're trained. Don't touch them. Just make sure they're not bleeding and don't move them because you might cut the spinal cord. You understand. So they're trained. This is what you got to do. If you want to be a helper, you're trained. You're trained. You're trained. Then the help will be, and so we have no injuries caused by the lack of training, and the help will be totally paid for by the individual helper in both time and money, if they wish. If they get in over their head, there will be someone qualified there who can help the helper. So you have a person who needs help, and they go to that organization for help. Someone takes them in and researches their problem, asks questions. What help you need? Why? Okay, then all the helpers are asked. They kind of put it out. All the helpers are asked if so, by whom will the help come? In other words, okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have this person here, this person needs help, who volunteers to help them? Then the helper pool will get a chance to make that choice. That's what we want and what you so desperately need. There will be no monies given save by those who would help, and it will be totally voluntary. Good. Now we have choices. The next problem that appears is the user and enabler syndrome. Do you know what that is? The user keeps using these people that want to help. Not the into the pocket kind of con person, but just somebody who needs help, and they get help, and then they need help, and they get help, and they need help, and they get help, and they never solve the problem because they're just using the enabler system. And the person who's helping is stuck in this enabler situation where they think they're helping and they're not. So they say the user's never helped in this system, and the enabler is never helping either. So what do we do with that problem? We have voluntary investigators to find out what the person's doing in this system. What are they doing when your back is turned? When you know what the person is doing with your help when you're not there will be no question as to what to do next. And remember, as a person travels the U in books 1, 2, and 3, there's a crash to the gutter that almost everybody has to travel. The expert volunteers can see the need and intervene when needed. That way, a person who just wants to help, can always do that. Help. Then if the system fails in any way, we have a government unit that can take over and do the job. What does that mean? It means that the voluntary group has priority in any help situation. The government can't step in. The government can't get involved unless the voluntary group asks. The government steps in only if asked, and only for as much as asked for. Wow, what a difference that is, huh? So that's a kind of a new system, but you're looking at something that needs to be done because the choices are increased. They go to number 5. This is a little different. Those things that are patent can, with the new system, be bought by the U.S. government or actually anybody, much like land for highways. Eminent domain is the right of government or its agent to take private property for public use with payment of compensation. So things like the ability to gain almost free energy become possible if it is true that the conspiracy theorists are right and the oil industry has bought those patents and hold them unused. What they say. All these patents that would help you and can't be touched because the big industry that makes money before the patents are used. In other words, just as an example, free energy, the oil companies are absolutely not going to want you to have free energy. So here comes a patent that shows you how to have free energy. Boom, bought by the oil company. Hidden, gone, never used. So what they're saying here is that the government by law has the right of eminent domain on patents, if you will, not domain, but eminent patents, if you want to call it that. So they can buy a patent, and no matter what it is, they have a right to buy it. They have a right to make use of it then. So then you have all the patents available, and the most that you can have is the upper limit of the income tax, or the money that you can make in a year. That's what the most it can cost, and the government can afford that. So the patents that are hidden and not used will become used, and that's kind of the intent of the thing. Now you see why it didn't fit anywhere. There's another one that doesn't fit anywhere, and this one's really weird. People feel the need to be punished for leaving Father. That is why they let evil go on. They also feel great guilt, again, for the same reason. Father does not punish, so that sick thinking comes from its, now you understand, the evil one's lies and not the truth. For more, Book 5, but think about what that's saying. All the things that you have seen that relate to psychological problems, where we go on with Freudian this and Freudian that, and oh my God, and on and on and on, and this is caused by your mother's or your father's abuse. No, they're saying, number one, you have a need to be punished because you love Father. That is why that you get punished, and that's why a lot of times these people let evil go on. They also, and as you start moving back toward wanting to be back with Father and all the, fellow souls, you begin to feel a great guilt, and again for the same reason. And they say Father does not punish people for leaving him. I mean, that's a lie that it put out. Christ was talking about it when he said that the son who took his fortune from his father and cashed it all in and took the money and went out and just caroused around and came back filthy, dirty, and rotten clothes and starving to death, and his father took him in and clothed him and fed him and took care of him. And his other son said, "Hey, I've been with you the whole time. I've been working in your vineyards. I've been doing everything right with you, and you're treating this good-for-nothing son of a gun that took all the things that you gave him and trashed him and lived a horrible life. You're doing the same thing for him you're doing for me. That's not right." But, people don't understand what that meant, and that's what it meant. Christ was trying to say, look, Father does not punish you. Father understands that you made a choice. Father understands that you come here to choose your way in deeper or out. And if you choose out, wonderful. We'll all just love you and oh, thank you for coming back. We miss you so much. And yeah, not the lie that it tells. Going to number 11, it says, although it seems that we did not want the unions, what needs to be understood is that it's only the financial bargaining and tenure that we feel has to go. What they say. The rest of what the union does is good. But financial part and the tenure part has to go. They go on and say the protection of the workers' rights, working conditions, and management's right to fire have to be looked at. It get to the point where there isn't so much antagonism or opposition between the union and the management, understanding that when management gains, the people that are working for them gain. And if you put the management out of business, you put yourself out of business. So it's a team concept, and we really in the United States have to get back to that. Kind of think that when the income limit is started, a lot of that will go away, because what good does it do to make more money if you don't get any more money, So they say the working concept here is that a job is a life provider of a worker and not just a thing to be tampered with lightly, and that's what management doesn't understand. Those who own businesses are known to put their business in jeopardy frequently just to be the boss, which is major dominion, as you can recognize, and not something the person should have to deal with just because of a personality conflict. That means that the unions must be there to make that work, make personality conflicts have nothing to do with being fired. So, although it seems that we do not want unions, not true. We need unions. We just need them to get out of the place that has been detrimental in the area of financial bargaining and tenure, and actually even the concept of slowing down work because of the person not having qualification. The place where the person, everybody sits on their fanny waiting for the pipe wrench man to do his job. Those kind of things have to be looked at. The object is to get the work done. It isn't The object is not to have any dictatorship in the union to make the work not get done, plain and simple. So those things have to be looked at. Both sides have to be modified. Both sides have to understand their place in business, and dominion has to be gotten out. So, number 12, the federal government has found people to pretend to give you conspiracy theories. The federal government found people to pretend to give you conspiracy theories that are just plain stupid. You understand what they're asking? Does the federal government, now let's get square here. Federal government, you. Federal government, your money. Federal government, they have to do the best they can to do what the government's supposed to do, and that's in government. But they say, have they found people to pretend to give you conspiracy theories that are just plain stupid? Have they hired people with your money to make sure that all conspiracy theories will not be given any credibility? Have they hired people to present false conspiracies on shows that are well financed? Has your news entertainment system made fun of conspiracies? Why? Are they afraid that you will begin to investigate? Is the same method used for channeling? Remember we said at the beginning, what they do is they have does the federal government hire people to pretend to channel, and they tell you these aliens are blah blah blah, and they're telling them this, and oh, that didn't happen because of this, and you get to the point where, oh man, we're not going to listen to that. They're asking you here, is that the point? Is the point to make it so stupid that you're not going to listen to it anymore? The question that they're really asking is, does the government hire people to con you? As we said all the time, you're paying for it. You're paying so that the government will con you. That's kind of what they're asking. Is your government, with your money, hiring these people to make sure the common man thinks this form of information is junk? To which they say, let's think about it. Let's wonder. This is kind of a strange thing to be paying for. And they say, enough said there. Then they go on. All these things are things that are kind of thrown in because they didn't know where to put them. So here was 4 things that just came to them or me at some point in time. These are 4 things that are coming, and we need to be ready. How? With the government we own. What'd they say? There are 4 things coming that we need to be ready for. How are we going to be ready for them? We're going to be ready for them because we own our government, and our government is going to make those kind of decisions that we need to have made to take care of this problem. What are they talking about? Let's go to the first one. What are we going to do when robots put us out of work? I'm old enough, so it probably won't happen for me. But what are you going to do when the robots if you're 21 years old, what are you going to do when the robots put you out of work? Because that's what's coming. Are you set so that you'll be okay anyway? If the robots can do all of our work for us way more cheaply, and we ought to be doing better and better every day. We don't have to work, and we're still being fed and got a nice house and a nice car. Wow, what a deal. Are you going to get that? Absolutely not, unless you own your government. Then, sure. Number 2, the second one. What are we going to do when the computers can outthink us? What are we going to do when the computers start being smarter than we are? We ready for that? Nope. Not even beginning to be ready for it. The third one. What are we going to do when the sun finally sends an EMP that shuts our electrical grid down? What are they talking about? Phew, man. I guess you'd have to look it up, and I guess what it actually is, an explosion on the sun that sends out an electrical impulse that just shuts everything down that we have that's electrical. I don't know if they can protect the automobile equipment so that it wouldn't bother, but I doubt it. I'm sure there's so many things that would go down. And for sure the electrical grid, and they tell me that it'll take 2 years to get the electrical grid back up and working because they don't have any parts to replace the parts that would go down. Federal government that you own. You see what they're saying? Okay, how about the fourth one? What are we going to do when the military-grade man-made virus gets out of the lab? What are we going to do when the military-grade man-made virus gets out of the lab? Pandemic, created by man, lost control of it, it's out of the lab. What are we going to do? Too late. Too late. What are we going to do then? We're going to stop making military-grade viruses. You own your government. That's what they're going to do. So, then they want to go on. Those are the four things, and they have more things that they want to talk to you about. And like I said, these don't fit very well anywhere else, so they're just going to throw them in. And the first one is, if you talk to a person who doesn't see that all the suggestions in the fourth chapter are really good things, then that person must think that stealing our money, performing all these horrible atrocities, the running of our government by insane rich, and the policies of it, you remember what it is, are what's needed. In other words, they're okay with what's going on now, these horrible things, and you need to, if you're talking to something like that, you look them right in the eye and say, are you telling me that you think it's a good idea for the wealthy to steal our money? Do you think it's a good idea that all these atrocities, starving people and so on, are going to go on? Do you think it's really good to have our government run by insane rich people? Insane. Insane they are. Rich people? Do you think it's a good policy to follow the whoever it is, that's in control? Is that what you want to have continue? Look them right in the eye and ask them. See what they do with that.